Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Do you know any rude people? Are people rude to you? Might you be rude to others? We live in what is considered to be more and more an uncivil society, the age of incivility, which actually has been going on for some time. It has the world, or our society, has become more polarized now, and people seem to be ruder than ever. And we need courtesy. We need experts in courtesy. We need to choose to be courteous, to be conscious about being courteous, to be purposeful, mindful about being courteous. And my guest, Linda Williams, who is the author of Excuse You, The Benefits of Living Courteously. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy. How are you? It's great to be here.
Oh, so wonderful to have you. And congratulations on your new book, which is out. And we are really looking at, is it important? Is it important to an individual to be courteous?
So I will say it may not be important to every single individual.
Mm-hmm.
So, to some people, being courteous is not important. But I think to the majority of people, if they're not interested in being courteous, they want people to be courteous to them.
Oh, yeah.
And so because of that, you have to be willing to learn how to be courteous to other people so that you can receive what you want from them.
Right. So the essence of reciprocity, that people do tend to reciprocate in kind. So to start, to just initiate courtesy. And so you're saying that people may not be purposeful about it if they're not aware?
They may not be. I mean, it does, just like anything that you do in life, you have to think about it, because it really doesn't take any thought to be rude. You just do whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah.
But to be courteous, to be kind, that takes an effort.
Yeah.
And so if you're not thinking about it, if it's not uppermost in your mind, then you may not be courteous. But in the same vein, if someone is rude to you, you pick that up automatically. It's very strange.
Right. It is. We have something called mirror neurons, where we do reflect other people, and we take on their emotions and their attitudes, even their body language. So I think that's a very good point, that it does take effort. And rudeness is mostly about reactivity and impulsiveness.
That's very true.
And
very true.
It's a disregard for people in general.
Yes.
I'm remembering what Albert Einstein said, that we have to make one major decision in our lives, and that affects everything. And the decision is the universe basically favorable or unfavorable?
Yeah.
And so I hear so many people say, people are awful, people are terrible, you can't trust people. It's the big they that are awful.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And I think you have to have, kindness is about having a positive attitude, about looking at things, like they say, you either look at the glass being half full or half empty. You kind of have to look at the world with the glass being half full in order to realize that kindness is important.
Yes. Kindness is important, and the root of the word kind is kindred, and that ultimately, instead of treating people like enemies, we treat them like kin, like fellow human beings.
Exactly.
And there's a slogan. It says, "Humankind, be both." Be both.
Be human and be kind.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Be human and be kind.
Yes.
Be humane.
Yes.
Be humane. True. So I agree with you. I think it is very attitudinal, and the idea of hail fellow, well met. So as you teach about greeting people, strangers, saying good morning to them, smiling at them, and that you find that 99% of the people reciprocate.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
It's true. And one of the other things that I think is very important in promoting courtesy is to teach our young people. Because I think the younger generation, somehow or another, we are missing teaching them that important element. And it's something, as I say to students, you can have the best grades in the world, but if your attire is inappropriate, or you don't know how to dress, not to dress, but you don't know what to say, or you're rude at an interview, it can cost you a job. And so I think that one of the important things for me is teaching courtesy and civility to younger people.
Yes, and you do write in your book that you do think that younger people are not as courteous as they could be, and they may even be less courteous than they have been in the past. Yes.
I just, I think that there are a lot of things that are a result of that. I think that in our generation, yours and mine, I think that it was just more important. And I'm not saying that parents don't teach their children, but I also think that technology has really made us people who stay within ourselves. We're on our phones, we're on our iPads, we have multiple TV stations to watch, and I think a lot of that has led to a lack of communicating with other people.
Oh, yes. So we've lost the ability to socially connect as we spend so much time on the screens.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that it is antisocial. It really is. And it's also dangerous. People are walking across the street with their cell phones. On the cell phone, people are driving on the cell phone. And
I honestly think that when technology started becoming more and more advanced, I don't think we saw it as interfering with our social skills until it was too late. I don't really think people saw it coming, and then all of a sudden, we're all introverts. No matter what age you are, you find yourself on the phone all the time. I just don't think that we saw it coming.
Right. We didn't understand the consequences of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love social media. I love the internet. I love the idea that I have instantly at my fingertips an entire encyclopedia. I can look up on YouTube anything I want to learn. I can look at videos. It is remarkable how much education we can get.
It's true.
From the social media, and yet we can abuse it.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And use it as a way to avoid contact.
Yes, it's true.
It's the comfort zone. Yeah, and you have a chapter in your book on when you're outside of your comfort zone.
Yes. And I say that because this whole thing of being more courteous may take you outside of your comfort zone, especially if you are a person who is shy, or maybe you live alone and so you just don't really interact with a lot of people. Whatever the case may be, you have to get out of where you are. You can't because if you're comfortable, there won't be much change in your life. I find that in order to be successful and in order to experience life, you have to step outside your comfort zone.
Yes, and I'm thinking about how courtesy is about extending yourself. How it's not being insular. It's not being isolated. It's acknowledging someone on the street.
Yes, it's true.
And how many people, unfortunately, don't extend themselves. They may not have the energy. They may feel depleted.
Yeah,
they may just be trying to keep their own head above water.
Right.
Yeah, but it does enlarge us to be courteous because we are extending ourselves.
Yes. And sometimes, you may even meet someone that you never would have met had you not been courteous. Think about going to like a function, dinner or networking event or something like that, and if you're really not into that and you kind of stay to yourself or you just stay with the people you could miss out on meeting some very important or people that you would be friends with for a long time. So you have to and everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a day where, I just really don't feel like being bothered. I just want to kind of stay to myself. But you have to be able to step out of that in order to make your life more exciting, for lack of a better term.
Well put. And I'm thinking about a friend that I made on a plane. I was going to South Africa with my husband, and so turns out she lives in Florida, and she was going to her original home in South Africa. And so that was about 4 or 5 years ago, and we are friends since then.
Exactly.
So, and it is just a matter of talking to someone.
It really is. And think about when you start a job, when you first begin, a job someplace. I mean, I know people when I was working who would start working and they really would kind of stay to themselves and you really didn't get to know them. But by the same token, I know people that were very outgoing. If you asked them if they wanted to go to lunch with you, they would go. And so you get to learn more about people because for the most part, we spend more time at work than we spend at home.
Yes.
So, you want to be able to have that kind of personality. And honestly, I am kind of a shy person, but I've learned over the years that I have to get out of that because, by being shy, I'm putting myself at a disadvantage.
So let's take a moment to look at that, Linda Williams. And Linda Williams is the author of the book, Excuse You, The Benefits of Living Courteously. So many benefits, yes. Let's just look at introversion versus extroversion.
Okay.
So when a person is an introvert, that's no excuse not to be courteous.
No, it's not. It really isn't. I mean, you can be an introvert but still be polite.
Yes.
And still be courteous.
Right.
You're just not an outgoing person.
Right.
And by the same token, you can be an extrovert and be obnoxious.
That's very, very, very true.
Yes.
Very true.
So it could go either way.
Yeah, so typically we look at introverts gain their energy from going inward and being contemplative and just having some quiet time.
Yes.
Whereas extroverts gain their energy from people, places, and things.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be the ones who talk to you as you're waiting for the elevator.
Right.
But even if the introvert doesn't do that, they can at least, as we've said, they can at least smile and say hello and hold the door.
Exactly.
And that sort of thing.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, I was in an airport a while ago, and I witnessed a boy about 9 years old, and he threw some paper down on the floor. Mm-hmm. Maybe a snack package, and he threw it right next to the litter, the garbage container.
Okay.
And I said to him, the garbage container is right there. How about picking it up? Mm-hmm. And he did. He picked it up, and then his parent came and absolutely berated me.
Really?
Yes, for having the nerve to teach or correct her child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I truly believe that, and Hillary Clinton has a book, it says it takes a village. It takes a lot of adults to raise a child. Now, if you were saying something to this little boy that was wrong, or you were yelling at him, then I could understand. But really, you were trying to teach him that you just don't throw the paper at the garbage can, hope it makes it, and if it doesn't, oh well, somebody else will pick it up. You were trying to teach him that it goes in the garbage can, and if you miss it, then you go and you pick it up and you put it in. I would not have a problem with that.
Right.
Because we all have to be careful enough when we're raising our children that they learn to respect adults, and especially the adults that are telling them something that is right. Had it been me, I would have thanked you.
Yeah, you would not have felt embarrassed or
not at all
in the wrong that you hadn't educated your child, or maybe you would have and they just forgot.
Right, exactly. Or maybe I was distracted. I was doing something else and I didn't even see that he threw it on at the garbage can and it missed. But you saw it and you corrected him.
Right. So, and I had another experience like that where a boy about 11 or so, I was walking into a store and he didn't hold the door for me. I was behind him. So I said something about, could you hold the door?
Right.
And again, another very irate mother chastised me. So, when you talk about especially teaching children courtesy,
yes.
I think it does. You had talked about it being repetitious, being rote. And I think you do have to get into certain habits of saying thank you and please and you're welcome, and responding in general.
Yes, it's true. It's true. But again, you made a good point in that sometimes parents may be embarrassed that they didn't teach their child that they should do something, and then another adult comes along and corrects them because they didn't do it. Well, the child didn't do it because they weren't taught.
Right.
So, but again, you're really helping the parent because that's something that they didn't teach them, but it's the right thing to do, and so you're telling them that they should do it. Well,
as you said, not everybody cares about being courteous.
Yes, and that's the problem.
Right, if you don't care about being courteous, then
that's exactly right.
It's a no-starter.
Right.
So what do you suggest when someone is discourteous and rude to you? How do you handle that?
It depends on the situation. It really does. Because, sometimes you can call people out for being discourteous or rude. And your example of holding the door is an excellent one, because you're going into a store, and the person is just ahead of you, and they walk through the door, and not only do they not hold it, they open it just enough for themselves to get in, and then they go through. And sometimes, I have to be absolutely honest, sometimes that happens, and I'll say, thank you, and sometimes people will turn around and go, I'm sorry, because they were totally oblivious to what they were doing.
Yeah.
But there's other times that somebody will do that, and I don't say anything because I don't want to get myself into an altercation with someone.
Right.
So it's one of those things that you just have to kind of play it by ear. And sometimes, you could say something like, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry you didn't see me behind you. But again, you have to be very careful. You really do, because a lot of people have tempers and anger issues, and you really don't want to get someone upset.
Right. You don't know who you're dealing with in the public.
You don't. And sometimes it's just best to just let it go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So going back to this reciprocity and these mirror neurons, unfortunately, when people are aggravated toward us, people can react the same way.
Yes, it's true.
And I know for me, when I've made mistakes driving, and hopefully they're not terrible mistakes, but I might have made a mistake inadvertently, and somebody will rage at me, and I will, instead of raging back, I will just tell them I'm sorry.
Right, exactly.
And their whole demeanor changes totally, completely.
Yes. And see, that's what we were talking about before, about the way you respond to someone. You can really just totally diffuse a person by responding calmly instead of responding in an angry tone or with an attitude the way they come at you.
Right, and I think, Linda, that is the biggest challenge for humanity, is not to aggress back when someone's aggressing toward you. And I don't mean when you don't have to physically take care of yourself.
Right,
I don't mean physical attack. I mean when they're just being nasty. Mm-hmm. And I have said to someone, "Oh, you're having a bad day?" I have said that, and I have a pet peeve about, say, wait staff not approaching by greeting someone, but by just approaching and saying, "What do you have?"
Yes,
and
exactly.
I will say, "Oh, hello."
Yes, exactly.
And they'll look up, kind of surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of times it's not that people don't know it's not that they don't know how to be courteous, it's that they're lost in whatever it is that they're thinking about or doing, or they're just oblivious to it. You know, it's like I mentioned about the people sometimes that won't hold the door, and sometimes it doesn't bother me and other times it does, and when I say, excuse me, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Because they were lost in thought or where they were going or whatever, and didn't even realize that I was behind them or that they didn't hold the door.
Yes. Yes, so sometimes it's really good to draw it to someone's attention that it is important to connect, and I can appreciate wait staff. I worked my way waiting on tables all through college.
Yes.
And so I know, how pressured and busy people can be. But of course they shoot themselves in the foot because that can reflect in their tips.
That's exactly right.
Yes. So we have,
and see, something like that should be something that's taught at the restaurant or the establishment that they are waitering or waitressing in. Because not only can it be a reflection on what they receive as a tip, But the patron may not come back because the waiter or the waitress was rude to them.
Right.
So.
Absolutely, which is nuts, and how people don't even train their staff, and that's something else.
Yes.
you could do
exactly
in the field of restaurants.
Yes.
And I think you address in your book the reason for the deterioration of courtesy, and I'm just thinking about a bumper sticker that was popular maybe 30 years ago, "Question authority." And how there is a breakdown in authoritarianism,
yes,
which I think is a good thing, that we don't automatically obey any adult just because they're an adult,
yes,
that we do question authority, and yet the breakdown in the norm of authoritarianism has not been sufficiently replaced.
It's
by
very true.
Very excellent contact with people. And, John Naisbitt said many years ago in his book Megatrends, which came out, my goodness, almost at least 25, 30 years ago, mm-hmm. He said, high tech requires high touch.
Yeah.
Which is what you were talking about before, technology.
Exactly.
So with high tech, we need to balance out high touch.
Yes, it's true. It's very true.
So, Linda Williams, author of Excuse You, The Benefits of Living Courteously. Do you have a last sentence or two for us? We have to close.
I guess I would close by saying that I would hope that these two broadcasts have given people something to think about with regard to their individual behavior, and perhaps, think about what they can do to start a courtesy initiative in this country, for us to be able to get along better together, because we're in this world together. We have to live together. And wouldn't it be much better to live together in a kind and courteous society rather than one where people are rude, people are fighting, people are telling each other off and doing all those negative things. So I would hope that people would just think about it. Think about what they can do to be not only to behave more courteously themselves, but begin to promote it to other people as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda Williams. Buy her book, Excuse You, The Benefits of Living Courteously, Linda Williams. And this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.